You're not allowed to watch this video unless it's sometime between 7:30 and 9 AM on the 17th of Wednesday in Miss Katrina's sociology class. I decided to do a video instead for a number of reasons, particularly if I were to like sneeze and cough at the same time during my presentation in class, if those are Google Slides, then now I have the opportunity to cut that out, so that's good, that's always good. Anyway, we're not going to waste time, let's just jump right into it. Recidivism. Once a criminal, always a criminal. Recidivism is the rate that describes how frequently criminals will reoffend and go back to prison after they've already gotten out. There's actually a number of things that show recidivism. They'll show like how frequently a prisoner is to go back to prison, and I have 5 of them. What patterns relate to recidivism? I was looking this up and I found a lot of interesting things like after 5 years, around 70 to 80% of criminals do reoffend. That's like a vast majority. I also learned that 70% of people in jail are not in jail for a violent crime. But anyway, some of the reasons that people reoffend are here. Reason number 1. Younger people offend more. In a study, after leaving secure institutions, about 2/3 of children reoffended after the first year. But most of these is because the children have experienced traumatic lives, chaotic lives, exposure to drugs. So they have a lot of opportunities that they might get into that will put them back in prison. But it does show how younger people are more exposed to these kind of things. Reason number 2. People with less education reoffend more. I can read the percents of reoffenders that have graduated from certain tiers of school. 55% of offenders who have had high school courses reoffend. 30% of offenders with vocational training reoffend. 13.7% of offenders with an associate degree reoffend. 5.6% of people with a bachelor's degree reoffend. And in the study, 0% of people with a master's degree reoffend. So this shows that people who have spent more time in school and spent more time trying to build up their career are less likely to go back to prison, which seems like it makes sense to me. This can also show that people with better schools have more money, which brings us into our next segue. Reason number 3. People with less money offend more. People who live in areas with poverty and less schools and less security have more access to drugs and these illegal things. This causes a plethora of crime and drugs distribution because there's nobody to watch over and secure these areas. And the lack of schools causes children to not learn how to properly function in society, and they grow up in a life of crime. And that shows how people with less money are more likely to reoffend more. Okay, I don't have a segue this time. Number 4. Reason number 4. This is less of a reason, but more of general information. The most frequent cases of reoffending occurs in criminals responsible for property crimes. So it means that the people that are put in jail for stealing things or breaking into houses are most likely to go back into jail for doing it again. A report from the Bureau of Justice found that 82% of offenders responsible for property damage, like breaking into houses or theft, returned to prison after 5 years, followed by drug charges with 77%, 74% of public order offenders, and 71% of violent offenders. Violent offenders is things like murder. Reason number 5. Having nowhere else to go. Sean Thompson, a man from Sussex, has deliberately committed multiple crimes to purposely go to prison. He does this because he doesn't have any money or a house, so he has nowhere else to go but prison. The fact that people are willing to go to prison just because they have nowhere else to go shows that people might commit crimes for their own good, even if it's something like stealing food. It shows that all crime doesn't have to have a malicious intention. A lot of time they're just trying to fend for themselves. Conclusion. This relates to sociology because it shows human behavior when faced with a severe punishment, that is, going to prison or going back to prison. I think it's important that we study this so we can understand why prisoners reoffend and what we can do to stop them from reoffending. I personally think that we can take additional measures to rehabilitate people after leaving prison, especially if they're on like a drug charge or something, to stop them from coming back. Okay, bye.